Willkommen bei Chess Live, präsentiert vom Verein für berufliche Weiterbildung. Wie Sie schneller und effektiver Englisch lernen, das hängt von der Unterrichtsgestaltung ab. Wir engagieren in unserem Teacher Trainer Center Top-Ausbilder wie zum Beispiel Chess. Deshalb unterrichten wir nach modernsten Lernmethoden. Chess Live zeigt in einem lebhaften Interview, wie moderne Lernmethoden zu besseren Lernergebnissen führen. Kompakt in 8 Staffeln auf YouTube. Sehen Sie dazu auch, wie ein idealer Unterricht abläuft und wie er sogar Spaß machen kann. Wir wollen, dass jeder Fremdsprachen lernen kann. Klicken Sie hierzu auf weiterbildunginhamburg.de und sehen Sie unser riesiges Sprachangebot und die schönen Räume in der City Nord. Und jetzt kommt Chess Live.
After that, I believe we sort of came to the main topic of the lesson. You went to the board and wrote ever on the board. And ask somebody to define that or to say what it means.
I just want to go back to what I said. I mean, the other aim is for the students to pay attention, to concentrate, but also, to enjoy themselves. I want the students to be in a positive frame of mind. Because if they're not, then they're not going to perform. They're going to go through the motions. They're going to please the teacher, and it's going to smack up school. I want my students to have a good time. To feel positive, to feel relaxed. And I think an exercise like the clap that we did, or the conversation, the one-word conversation, I think that is the other purpose that it serves. Back to your question now. Yes, I didn't know these students, so I needed to know how much they knew about the present perfect and about what grammar, what language you need when you want to talk about life experiences. So I put up ever on the board because I wanted to know whether they'd already encountered that word. With my French students, that is normally that is a difficult word to teach because they think it's the opposite of never.
Yes.
So I guess I wanted to clear the ground from all possible obstacles before moving on and launching into the thick of things.
Yes.
That's why.
Okay. Okay. And after that you gave the students the dictation. Have you ever, with different endings?
Yeah.
Why did you give a dictation at that point?
I dictated not because I was lazy to write things up on the board, and I didn't particularly want to save paper or be more environmentally friendly. There is a reason for that. I believe that when you dictate questions, the students, as they listen to the question and they take it down, they start processing the answer to it. So basically, you give them an opportunity, to rehearse language mentally. And I think rehearsing language, is very, very, very important.
Yeah.
Especially, with students, when at intermediate or lower stages, levels. So I think, that giving them plenty of opportunities before you actually, ask them to use the language, I think, it's very, very important.
Yes. Okay.
It's not so much a listening exercise per se. I could have just given them a questionnaire, but it's not the same thing. Listening to a question, writing it down, the student has another opportunity. As the first opportunity, to think about what he or she wants to say, because that's how it works.
Good. Yeah.
That's the reason behind that dictation bit.
Yes. So also a bit to relax. Maybe you have also, you have time to think. Is that also, in terms of you have to actively read, you get fed something. You know what I mean? It's also have to do with that. If I just have to write, I don't have to make something up myself.
Oh yeah, in that sense. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I suppose so.
Okay. Why did you choose the questions that you asked? Why did you choose these particular questions? I
wanted the questions, to be a little bit more, not funny, but not strange, but a little bit, I chose questions that I don't think, you would normally find in a course book.
Yes.
Okay, normally students are confronted with questions like, have you ever been to Rome or ever been to Japan? So I thought those questions were a little bit more original, perhaps a little bit more interesting for the students to try and answer and find out about each other's answers. That's why.
Okay. What I also noticed at that point, actually before already, also you demonstrated the exercise with somebody, right?
Yeah.
You also did that in the first stages.
I always do that. I think it's I think it's a pretty good idea. Yeah. Because I think, when you can demonstrate, a demonstration, demonstrating something is so much better than explaining. You can explain things, until you're blue in the face, but some people, will never get it. But when people see it done, and they understand, what's been required of them, I think, it's much more, I think it's better. For a lot of people, it is better. Yeah. They see what they're expected to do. And it may be that that they still don't understand, and then but you do it again.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's the reason behind modeling something like that.
So you also do that in advanced classes, obviously.
Yeah.
Yes.
That doesn't have anything to do with the level of the students.
Okay.
Yeah. Anything I try to do. I mean, if in particular, if it's something that I've never done before with a certain group, and I want to give them a taste of what the activity is how the activity is supposed to work, then I demonstrate it first.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Okay. Yeah, and after that dictation, you had people pair up and they asked each other about the questions, and they either said yes I have or no I haven't, and if they said yes I have, you had them ask again, right? Ask some more questions.
Yeah, because I wanted to try and personalize it a little bit, and one thing I always place a lot of emphasis on in classes, that I don't want my students to go through a list of questions like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't want them to go on an automatic pilot. I think I always tell my students, imagine you're at a cocktail party. You don't just fire questions at the person you're talking to. You try and find some common ground. You try, or you sometimes with fake interest. But you don't just stop at question 1, 2, 3. You're always asking additional questions, especially if the answer, if the topic is of particular interest to you. Yeah. Can you imagine if going to a cocktail party and saying things like, okay, what's your name? What do you do? Where do you live? How do you like it here?
Yes,
who do you know at the point? I mean, it doesn't work like that. So you try and build up a conversation with additional questions, comments, and oh, do you really? Oh, guess what? Me too. Oh, wow, I didn't know that. You really? Where can you do that? So you try and teach, teach them a little bit, of authentic language in a sense, because the aim is not for them to practice the present perfect. Like I said, if I see John across the street, I don't tell myself, here's John, I'm going to make a nice present perfect with him. But it's more, understanding the communicative value and the communicative purpose of a certain tense or whatever language bit. And I think that when the students understand that, half the job has been done. So, but if the emphasis is on communication, and you don't stress that enough with the students, then the students they're gonna ask themselves, wait a minute, is he interested in my answers, or is he, or all he wants to see is whether I use the present perfect or simple past correctly. So by training, by coaching the students to ask additional questions, then I think you have a better chance of getting across a more global message. Look, I mean, these are the questions that we normally. This is how a conversation works in German, but guess what? That's how a conversation works in English too.
Yes.
Yeah?
What would you do about correction at that point?
Well, correction is a different, is a different can of worms altogether. There are, I think, correction calls for different decisions to be made. All right, you have to decide what to correct, when, and how. All right. Now, teachers have different strategies, different theories. Some people say that correction, that you can correct people until the cows come home, but they never get it. They keep on making the same mistakes. There's lots of studies in America that show that for example, the S in the third singular, the S third person thing. It's something that for a lot of people, it's just once it's fossilized, then it's impossible to get rid of. I think, you know, we need to be very careful. I don't want to give the impression to my students, you know, that all I do in class is remedial work. Because, you know, the big danger is that if you spend a lot of time correcting your students, okay, you're not teaching anything.
Yes.
Or you're not teaching anything new, or you're not teaching anything else. If you harp on the present perfect, for example, if you harp on the third person singular, you may think, you know, this is something that they absolutely need to know, okay? But the thing is, you know, when you meet a group for 2 hours a week, once a week, okay? If you spend half your lesson correcting things that they've already seen, they've already practiced, and they still don't have, you know, you're depriving your students, you know, of a chance, you know, to be exposed to new material. So you have to ask yourself, you know, whether that's really worthwhile.
Yes.
So that's one thing. To answer your question, I think, you know, that if you want your students, you know, to talk about life experiences and they make lots of mistakes in pairs and they still don't have it, then I think it's pretty clear that some extra teaching is called for. Now, some people make mental notes of the students' mistakes. Some people, you know, scribble the mistakes on a piece of paper. And then, you know, you wait for your students to finish their pair work activity, and then, you know, put everything up on the board and you clarify the mistakes with the group. Or some people just step in. Some teachers, you know, just can't resist, you know, and they have to give them the right. I don't think the one is better than, you know, and when you talk about language teaching, I really don't believe that there is a better way or a best way of doing things, because, you know, every single teacher is different, every single student is different, and I think it's just a question of, you know, finding the right balance between the way a teacher teaches and the way a student wants to learn.
Yes.